Hi everyone. How much power do you really need? Great question. Well, I'm sure we all would love to have full legal limit power, or if there was a higher limit, even beyond that. But how much do we really need? And with that, how much antenna do we really need? I'm sure we would all at one time or another love to have the highest gain directional antenna. And of course, there are benefits of high power and high gain antennas. But what can you get by with and have an excellent QSO? I shall tell you. So I was enjoying recording some things in my logbook today, and I had an amazing QSO with Art in Missouri. So I ended up doing some tests. Art was amazing in being able to help me try out something I had been curious to do, and I know others have done similar things. I've even seen at least one video about this on YouTube. But I was initially reaching him with just 100 watts. Now, if you saw my previous video, I mentioned about how my amplifier stopped amplifying essentially. So hopefully I'll hear more about that soon from the manufacturer. Incidentally, quick side note, the signal that I was hearing that I was trying to respond to, I thought was a ZF as in Zulu Foxtrot, but it was a ZS as in Zulu Sierra. It actually happened to be Zulu Sierra 6 Charlie Charlie Yankee, and many of you may know that is Bill, the famous ham radio operator from South Africa. So I was actually hearing South Africa. I had heard him mention something about South Africa, but I thought, well, maybe he's on a de-expedition or has another home in the Cayman Islands, whoever this particular person was. And then I heard him again tonight and realized, wait a second, he's in South Africa. And of course I was able to put the pieces together, and I hope to be able to talk with Bill on the air someday. I'll talk more about that in a moment when I get into the antenna side of this video. But back to talking with Art in Missouri. Okay, so he is 1,657 miles away. And I started by reaching him with 100 watts, and my signal was about a 5.3 or so, but it was fluctuating a lot with the propagation. This was on the 10 meter band today, and it was in the afternoon. And so it was pretty decent propagation, but it was fluctuating. It was starting to get later in the day, especially over in Missouri. But in any case, I was receiving him at a 5.7. He was receiving me at a 5.3, but my 5.3 was fluctuating as high as a 5.9 briefly. And his signal was also fluctuating. Okay, so now for the power test. So in theory, a perfectly calibrated S meter is going to show a difference in S units based on a multiple of 4 in the power level, which would be 6 decibels. So 3 decibels is basically a double factor if you're going up by 3 decibels. 6 decibels would be a quadruple factor, so 4 times the power would be 1 S unit. Anyhow, hopefully that makes sense. There's more information out on the internet about this, but what am I getting at here? Okay, so I tried 100 watts, and then I tried quartering the power down to 25 watts. Now, I'm not just talking about the 25% setting on my ICOM IC 7300. I ran the 7300 through my tuner, which has a built-in watt meter, and the digital watt meter on my Palstar HF Auto was reflecting about what I had expected, right around 25 watts when I was transmitting at 25% power on the ICOM. Okay, so sure enough, my signal dropped by about 1 decibel there, not 1 decibel, 1 S unit or so. So instead of it showing about an S3, it was about an S1.5 is what Art was saying. So it was fluctuating, so it was hard to get an exact reading. But guess what? We were able to keep up the conversation at over 1,600 miles away. All right, well then I thought, okay, let's quarter that. It should drop about another S unit. And that's what we did. I was able to lower the power down to 6 watts, again, confirmed with the watt meter in my tuner. So the 6% was fairly accurate on the ICOM. And he was still able to hear me. Now again, signal was fluctuating a lot, so it was hard to be exact with this, but he could still hear me. We were able to carry on the QSO. But then eventually the band started dropping off quite a bit. And so I started raising my power, and I was hearing his signal drop off. He had been a 5.7, and he was dropping off to more like a 5, I'm going to say a 5.3 or something like that. But that gives you an idea. All right, so I was thrilled. Here I was able to reach over 1,600, almost 1,700 miles. So that would be thousands of kilometers. And I was able to do that with 6 watts. And not only that, but I checked on QRZ afterward, and I found out that the shortest distance for the propagation would be almost exactly due east of me, which means that the signal was even having to go over that hill that I mentioned in another video that's directly, more or less directly east, so right behind my house. And so with that in the way, and my short antenna, which is going to lead me into the next part of this video, just a little whip antenna, 6 watts, I was able to reach back to Missouri. So I was excited about that. Okay, so to kind of close out this video, I'll talk a little bit about antennas. So as I mentioned, I was using an 8-foot whip antenna with just 3 little 8-foot radials that were in the form of a counterpoise, essentially because this was elevated off the ground, but just 3 interspersed radials essentially, and just kind of hanging down over my deck and that kind of thing. And simple antenna, less than ideal conditions because it's set up on the deck when I do that, so it's right near the house and the wiring and all of that. But in a way, some of those things can actually help with the counterpoise situation and so forth. But think about that. Little whip antenna, 6 watts, and having a nice conversation. And certainly with 25 watts or 100 watts, it was no issue. So that makes me grateful that for me personally, I have never invested in an extremely expensive antenna. My most expensive antenna, off the top of my head, like the antenna itself, is that same whip that I was using. It's a 25-foot whip by Chameleon, but I only had it extended about 8 feet. And I have invested in other antenna-related items, so like, of course, my coax and my POTA 33 heavy-duty mast. So those things aren't exactly cheap, but I'm so thankful that I haven't invested thousands and thousands of dollars in antennas. Now, with that, I have learned a lot with amplifiers, and I am thankful for those fringe conversations where they can just barely hear me, that I had enough power to punch through, also with pile-ups. So I am thankful to have been able to use amplifiers, and I'm looking forward to having an amplifier again once this one is replaced or repaired. But in any case, that was exciting to be able to pull in that signal from South Africa, well over 10,000 miles away, both tonight and last night. And I'm looking forward to being able to be heard in South Africa as well. But the pile-up was out of this world. But hopefully I'll be able to get through one of these times. But in any case, I was excited to hear Bill today and yesterday. The signal was fluctuating on 40 meters, but I would say I was picking him up at about an S3 or so, something like that. But it did fluctuate even as high as, I think, S4 or 5. And anyway, thank you all for watching this video, and may it inspire those of you who either don't want to or can't, for one reason or another, get an expensive antenna or amplifier. Don't let that discourage you. You can have amazing QSOs with as little as 6 watts, or obviously less, and a short little 8-foot antenna with super simple radials or counterpoise. Thank you so much, and 73.